Hello, my crafty friends. Well, today I have two different cards that I want to share with you that feature a fun little pop-up surprise on the inside. Hi, it's Lynn Dunn from Stamptastic Designs. Thanks so much for joining me today. In this episode of Stamptastic TV, I have two different card ideas I want to share with you, which feature a fun little pop-up on the inside of the card. And this pop-up is super simple to create because Stampin' Up! Has a fun new product that you can use. Now, the cards in this video feature the traditional labels bundle from Stampin' Up!, as well as a variety of products from the traditional Christmas suite. We will also be using the Pop-Up Petals Dies. So these are a new set of dies that just came out with the online exclusives this month. And so we're going to be using one of these two dies here to create the pop-up section for the inside of our card. However, keep in mind you can use any supplies you have on hand to create your pop-up cards. Okay, so this is the card that I'm going to show you how to create. So I'm going to show you how to create this little pop-up section on the inside of the card. And I'll show you a couple different ways that you can use this little pop-up to add just this fun little surprise on the inside of the card. So before we create the pop-up section, let's talk about how to create the base of the card. So this is just your A2 size card. It's a top folding card. And this piece of paper is 4 1/4 by 11 inches, and I just scored it in the middle at 5 1/2. So you have your top folding A2 size card. So let's go ahead and decorate the outside of our card first before we create the pop-up section. So I started with a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of white cardstock, and I just embossed it with the traditional wreath 3D embossing folder. Next, I have two pieces of pattern paper. So this red one is 4 inches long and it's a 1/2 inch wide. And then this other piece, the green piece, is 4 inches long, but it's 2 3/4 inches wide. So we're just going to add these to our card front. The next thing I did is just stamped a little greeting on a 1/2 inch wide by 3 1/4 inch long piece of white cardstock. And we'll just add this to the bottom. And then to decorate the front of my card, I actually just cut this from a piece of the pattern paper. So that's the Traditions of Christmas designer series paper. And we'll just pop this up right on our card front. So that is all there is to it to just decorate the front of the card. So now let's go ahead and create the pop-up section for the inside of this card. So to create the pop-up section on the inside of the card, I started with a 3 3/4 by 10 1/2 inch piece of white cardstock. And then I just scored it in the middle here at 5 1/4 inches. So when it's folded, it's 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. Okay, so now we are ready to take that piece of paper and just put it through our embossing machine. We're going to use this little die from the Pop-Up Petals, and you'll notice that it has two little points on it. So basically I'm going to line up those points with the score line that is in the cardstock. And then we are just going to run this through our embossing machine to create the pop-up section. Okay, so once you run this through your embossing machine, the die actually does all the cutting and scoring right on your cardstock. So it makes it very easy to create this style of card. So I just fold it in half, and then you want to pop this little piece here in the middle. You want to pop that inward. So there's some score lines that you can kind of press on to make this come forward. So you'll end up with kind of like the start of an H here. And then on the inside, you'll have this little pop-up section. So this little die makes it so easy to create that little pop-up section. So let's go ahead and decorate the inside of our card. So the first thing I did is just embossed this up at the top. So let me show you how I did that. So basically, I just put my little pop-up section inside my embossing folder. So I'm using the Traditional Wreath 3D embossing folder, and I just lined up the bottom of the embossing folder with the score line that goes across the top part of this piece of cardstock. And then you can just run this through your embossing machine. All right, so now that we have run this through the embossing machine, you can see that it just embosses this beautiful design right on the inside of our card. So it just coordinates now with the outside. Okay, so now that we have this embossed, let's go ahead and just decorate this top part. So I'm going to use the same type of design as I did on the front of the card. We're just going to cut it a little bit shorter. So I have a 1/2 inch by 3 3/4 inch piece of just the red pattern paper. And then I have the 3 3/4 by 2 3/4 inch piece of the green. So we're just going to add these right at the top here. All right, so that is our basic design. And then we're going to create our little pop-up section. So for that, I have 2 pieces of cardstock. So the white piece is 2 1/4 by 3 3/4 inches. And then the cherry cobbler piece is 2 3/8 by 3 7/8. So basically I'm just going to adhere these together. I actually used one of the textured notes dies to create the white rectangular piece, but you can easily just use plain cardstock. You don't have to use one of the dies. And then we'll add our little focal points. So I just die cut one of these out of the pattern paper, and we'll just add that to the center of our rectangular shape. And basically what we want to do is adhere the bottom part of this just to this little section, this little 1-inch section. So I like to add my glue to here because this is where we want to adhere it. And we're just going to hold this in place and adhere it right to that little section. And then you can push this down just to make sure it adheres properly. And then that is what your little pop-up section looks like. Okay, so let's grab our A2 size card that we had already decorated, and let's just open it up. And then we're gonna take this insert that we created, this little pop-up insert, and you're just gonna fold it in half like this. And you basically want it to go directly up against the score line. So we're gonna go ahead and add some glue to this back panel first. And then let's just scoot this in here, and we'll make sure that our card closes. All right, so we have part of it adhered. So let's go ahead and add glue to the rest of this. We're just gonna add it to this side. Then you're just gonna take the front of this A2 size card and just push it down on top. And we'll just give it a few seconds just to let the glue set. All right, and then you have your little pop-up on the inside. So that's what it looks like from the side. All right, so that is one way that you can use this little pop-up section, is just to add like a rectangular or square panel on the inside of the card. And then this other card I created, I did the same thing. I cut the paper the exact same way and created this little pop-up section. And then this time I added the flower directly to that little pop-up section instead of using that large rectangular shape. Either way will work. It's just a matter of preference and a matter of, I guess, what kind of embellishments or die cut pieces that you would like to pop up on the inside of the card. Okay, so there you go. Now you have 2 different ways that you can use these pop-up dies in your card making. And if you enjoyed these card ideas, feel free to download the printable tutorial. You can find the link in the description below this video. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by liking it and sharing it with your friends. And leave me a comment below to let me know what you enjoyed most about the video and the cards shared here today. Have a fun and creative day, my friends. Take care.